My name is Derek Rodriguez. I am 21 years old, and I learned that becoming a parent has nothing to do with biology or age or planning. It happens in an instant, in a moment of crisis, when you realize that a child needs you and you are the only one who will stand between them and harm. It happens when you get a phone call at 11 at night from your 16-year-old brother who is crying so hard he can barely breathe, and you understand that everything in your life is about to change. That phone call came on a Friday in December during my junior year at Arizona State. I was in my apartment studying for finals, eating Doritos, and trying to memorize the differences between various psychological theories for my exam on Monday. My roommate Jake was out at a party. I had the place to myself, which was rare and precious during finals week. My phone rang. Mateo's name appeared on the screen with the photo I had taken of him last summer, grinning with ice cream on his face at our favorite shop. My little brother, calling at 11 on a Friday night, which was unusual. Mateo did not like talking on the phone. Phone calls were hard for him. The lack of visual cues, the pressure of real-time conversation, the unpredictability of how long the call would last, the anxiety of not knowing when it would be appropriate to hang up. He much preferred texting, where he could take his time and think about what he wanted to say and edit before sending and not have to worry about tone of voice or awkward silences. So a phone call meant something was wrong. Seriously wrong. I answered immediately, my textbook sliding off my lap to the floor. Mateo, what is going on? Are you okay? The sound that came through the phone was not words. It was crying, raw, desperate, gasping crying mixed with hyperventilating. The kind of crying that sounds like drowning. The kind of crying that reaches into your chest and squeezes your heart until you cannot breathe either. Mateo! I said, my own heart starting to race, adrenaline flooding my system. Mateo, breathe. You need to breathe. Can you hear me? Can you breathe with me? In through your nose, out through your mouth. Come on, buddy. Breathe with me. I heard him trying, gasping for air, choking on his tears, still crying so hard I could barely make out any coherent sounds beyond the sobbing. Where are you? I asked, my voice as calm as I could make it, even though I was starting to panic. Are you safe? Are you hurt? Did someone hurt you? Garage. He finally managed to get out between sobs. Each word was a struggle. Derek, I am in the garage. It is so cold. So cold. Please. Please come get me. Please come right now. The garage. Our parents' garage. The unheated, uninsulated garage in Phoenix, where it might not snow, but where winter nights still dropped into the 30s, sometimes lower. The garage where we kept the cars and tools and boxes of old junk, and where no human being should ever be spending extended time in December. Why are you in the garage? I asked, but I already knew, deep down in my gut. I already knew the answer, and my blood was already starting to boil with a rage I had never felt toward my own father before. Dad locked me in here, Mateo said, and his voice broke on the word locked. I had a meltdown at dinner. I did not mean to. I did not want to. But everything was too much, Derek. The noise and the smells, and Dad was talking so loud, and the TV was on, and Mom's phone kept ringing, and I could not process it all. And I spilled my water, and it went everywhere. And then when I tried to clean it up, I knocked over my plate, and there was food on the floor, and I just could not stop it. He was talking faster now, the words tumbling out in a rush. I tried to stop it. I really tried, but my hands were shaking, and I could not make them work right, and everything was too loud, and I covered my ears, but that made Dad mad because he said I was not listening to him. And then I started rocking, and he said I was being dramatic. He said I was doing it for attention. He said I was embarrassing him. And I tried to explain that I was not doing it on purpose, but he would not listen. Okay, I said, already grabbing my keys from the hook by the door, my shoes, my wallet, everything I could think of. What happened next? How did you end up in the garage? He grabbed my arm, Matteo said, and I could hear the tears starting again. Really tight. It hurt. He dragged me through the kitchen, and he was yelling the whole time about how I ruined dinner, and how I always ruin everything, and how he is sick of dealing with me. And he opened the door to the garage and shoved me in, and said I could stay out here until I learned how to act like a normal person instead of a freak. The word freak hit me like a physical blow. Our father had called my autistic brother a freak, had shoved him into a freezing garage and locked him in there for hours because he had a meltdown he could not control. How long have you been out there? I demanded, my voice harder than I intended. I was not mad at Matteo. I was furious at our father, but I needed to know how bad this was. Since 6, Matteo said. Dinner was at 6. He locked me out here right after. What time is it now? I do not know what time it is. My phone is dying. Derek, what if my phone dies? What if I cannot call you back? What if nobody comes? I looked at my phone. 11:15. My brother had been locked in an unheated garage in December for over 5 hours. 5 hours. It is 11:15, Matteo, I said, trying to keep my voice calm and steady even though I wanted to scream. You have been in there for over 5 hours. Has anyone checked on you? Has anyone brought you a blanket or water or anything? Mom came once, Matteo said quietly. Maybe an hour ago. I heard her footsteps, and I knocked on the door and called her name. I heard her talking to Dad on the other side. She said maybe it had been long enough. She said you were too cold. She used my name, Derek. She said Matteo is probably cold, like she knew I was suffering, but she was asking Dad for permission to let me in like I am a dog or something. What did Dad say? I asked, even though I did not want to know, even though I already knew and it made me sick. He said I needed to learn my lesson, Matteo said. He said I was manipulating her. He said if she let me in now, I would just keep having tantrums to get my way. She tried to argue a little bit. I heard her say something about it being really cold tonight. But he got angry and told her she was too soft on me, and that was why I was such a problem. And then they just left. I could hear them walking away. I banged on the door and screamed for them to come back, but nobody came. I was in my car now, starting the engine. I am coming right now, I said. Right now, Matteo. I am getting in my car, and I am driving home to Phoenix. It is going to take me about 2 hours to get there from Tempe, but I am coming. I am already driving. Do not hang up. Stay on the phone with me the entire time. Okay? Keep talking to me. Okay, he said. His voice was so small, so broken. Derek, I am really cold. I cannot stop shaking. My teeth are chattering. I think maybe something is wrong with me because I cannot get warm. That is just hypothermia starting, I said, trying not to panic at that word. Your body is trying to conserve heat. Can you find anything to wrap yourself in? Any blankets or towels or anything? There are some old towels on the shelf, he said. The ones we use for washing the cars. But they smell bad, like oil and dirt. I do not care if they smell, I said firmly. Get those towels. All of them. Wrap them around yourself, around your body, around your shoulders, around your legs. As many as you can. It will help trap your body heat. I heard him moving, heard the rustling of fabric, heard him breathing hard from the effort. Okay, he said. I have them. I have 4 towels. I wrapped them around me like a blanket. Good, I said. That is good, Matteo. Now I need you to keep talking to me. Tell me about something you like. What anime have you been watching this week? Tell me about that. And so for the next 2 hours, as I drove through the dark Arizona night from Tempe to Phoenix, I kept my little brother talking, kept him distracted from the cold and the fear and the fact that our parents had locked him in a garage and gone to bed like it was nothing. He told me about the plot of his favorite anime, about the video game he was playing, about the YouTube videos he had been watching, about the homework he had due Monday that he had not finished, about everything and nothing, just talking, just staying present, just surviving until I could get to him. His voice got quieter as time passed, more slurred. That scared me. That scared me a lot. Hypothermia could be deadly. People died from exposure in temperatures that did not seem that cold to others. And Mateo had been out there for hours with nothing but dirty towels. "Stay awake, Mateo," I kept saying. "Keep talking to me. Do not fall asleep. You need to stay awake until I get there." "I am so tired," he said. "Can I just sleep for a little bit? Just a few minutes." "No," I said firmly. "No sleeping. Come on, tell me more about that boss fight you were trying to beat. The one in that game you were playing. What was the strategy?" He talked. Slowly, tiredly, but he talked. And I drove as fast as I dared, praying I would not get pulled over, praying I would get there in time, praying my little brother would be okay. Mateo has autism. High functioning. The doctors called it, though I hated that term. Autistic level 1, they said now, which was better, but still seemed clinical and cold. What it meant in practical terms was that Mateo was smart, verbal, capable of taking care of himself in most ways. But he struggled with sensory processing, with emotional regulation, with social cues and unspoken rules and changes to routine. He got overwhelmed sometimes, overstimulated. When that happened, he would have meltdowns. They looked like tantrums to people who did not understand. Looked like he was being dramatic or difficult or bratty. But they were not. They were neurological. His brain getting overloaded and short-circuiting. His nervous system going into fight or flight mode. I understood this. I had read books about autism, watched videos by autistic adults explaining what it felt like, learned about stimming and sensory sensitivities and how to help Mateo when he was overwhelmed. I had spent years learning how to be a good brother to someone who experienced the world differently than I did. Our parents had not bothered to learn any of it. To our father, Mateo's autism was a character flaw, a weakness, something to be punished out of him. If Mateo would just try harder, focus more, be more normal, he would be fine. The meltdowns were attention-seeking. The stimming was weird and embarrassing. The need for routine and predictability was just Mateo being difficult and controlling. Our mother enabled it. She knew better. She had to know better. But she never stood up to our father. Never protected Mateo. Just made excuses and looked the other way and pretended everything was fine. I had moved out for college 3 years ago when Mateo was 13. At the time, I thought I was giving him space. Thought that maybe things would be better with me gone, with one less person in the house, with less chaos. I thought our parents would step up, would learn to understand Mateo now that they did not have me to lean on. I was wrong. Things had gotten worse, much worse, and I had been 2 hours away, oblivious, while my little brother suffered. Not anymore. Not after tonight. I pulled into my parents' driveway at 1:15 in the morning. Every light in the house was off. The neighborhood was silent and dark, except for a few porch lights on timers. The moon was thin and pale, providing barely any light. I could see frost forming on the windshields of the cars parked on the street. The temperature had dropped even more since I started driving. Our parents had locked my 16-year-old autistic brother in the garage for over 7 hours in this freezing cold, and then gone to bed like it was nothing. Like he was nothing. Like he did not matter at all. I felt rage coursing through my veins, hot and sharp and all-consuming. My hands were shaking, but not from the cold, from fury, from disbelief, from the absolute horror of what my father had done. But Mateo came first. Getting him warm and safe came before my need for confrontation. I went straight to the side door of the garage, The same door I had used thousands of times growing up. I pounded on it with my fist, the sound echoing in the quiet night. "Mateo, it is Derek. I am here. Move away from the door, okay? I am going to break it down." I heard shuffling from inside. Then Mateo's voice, hoarse and weak and barely recognizable. "Okay, I am away. I am in the corner." I backed up and kicked the door as hard as I could, right next to the handle. It was a cheap hollow-core door, not meant for security, just meant to keep bugs out. It splintered on the first kick. On the second kick, the frame around the lock gave way completely. I reached through the hole I had made and unlocked it from the inside, turning the deadbolt that my father had used to trap my brother. The door swung open, and I saw him. Mateo was huddled in the far corner of the garage, as far from the door as he could get. He was wrapped in 4 dirty towels that smelled like motor oil and car wax and garage grime. The towels were thin and old, barely providing any insulation. His lips were blue, actually blue. His face was pale, except for 2 spots of bright red on his cheeks. His hair was messy, and there was dried tear tracks all down his face. He was shivering so violently that his whole body was shaking, his teeth chattering so hard I could hear them from across the garage. When he saw me, his face crumpled and he started crying again. Not the panicked crying from the phone. Exhausted crying. Relieved crying. The crying of someone who had been holding it together by sheer force of will and could finally let go. I crossed the garage in 3 strides and knelt down next to him. I pulled him into a hug, towels and all. His skin, where it touched mine, was ice cold. Not cool, not chilly, ice cold, like touching someone who had been swimming in a frozen lake. His whole body was shaking against mine. "I am here," I said into his hair. "You are safe now. I am here. I got you." "I thought you were not coming," he sobbed into my shoulder. "I thought maybe you did not believe me. I thought maybe you would say I was exaggerating like Dad always says. I thought nobody was coming. I thought I was going to be out here all night. I thought maybe I was going to die out here." "I will always come," I said fiercely. "Always, Mateo. No matter what. If you call me, I will come. Every single time. I do not care where I am or what I am doing. If you need me, I am there. Do you understand?" He nodded against my shoulder, still crying. I pulled back enough to look at him. His eyes were bloodshot from crying. His nose was running. There was a cut on his lip where he must have bitten it. "Can you feel your fingers and toes?" I asked. "Can you move them?" He tried, wiggled his fingers, moved his feet. "Yeah," he said. "They hurt. They feel like they are burning." "That is good," I said. "That means blood is flowing. That is good. That means we caught this in time. You are going to be okay, but we need to get you warm. Come on, can you stand?" I helped him to his feet. He was unsteady, his legs stiff from sitting in the cold for so long. The dirty towels fell off him, and I saw what he was wearing. Just jeans and a t-shirt. Not even a sweatshirt. No socks. No shoes. Our father had dragged him out here in December with no jacket, no shoes, nothing. The door from the garage to the house suddenly opened, light flooding in from the kitchen. Our father stood there in his pajamas, his hair messy from sleep, squinting into the dark garage. When his eyes adjusted and he saw me, his expression went from confused to shocked to angry in the space of a heartbeat. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. "Derek? What are you doing here? How did you get in? Did you break my door?" I stood up slowly, carefully, positioning myself between him and Mateo. "I am getting my brother," I said. My voice was calm, deadly calm, the kind of calm that comes from rage, so intense you cannot raise your voice, because if you did, you might start screaming and never stop. "Who you locked in the garage? In December, for over 7 hours. He was having a tantrum. Dad said dismissively. Like this was obvious. Like this was reasonable. He made a scene at dinner, knocked over his plate, made a huge mess. He needed a timeout to calm down and think about his behavior. He is 16 years old, I said. Each word was measured, controlled, and he has autism. He does not have tantrums. He has meltdowns, which are a neurological response to overstimulation that he literally cannot control. It is his nervous system getting overwhelmed. It is brain chemistry. And you locked him in an unheated garage in 30-degree weather because you could not be bothered to parent him properly, because you could not be bothered to learn the first thing about his disability. Do not you dare lecture me about parenting, Dad said, his voice rising now, defensive and angry. I have dealt with his issues for 16 years. 16 years of drama and screaming and weird behavior that embarrasses this entire family. 16 years of tantrums and meltdowns, and him making every single family event about him. You have no idea what it is like. You got to leave. You got to go to college and escape. I am the one who has to deal with him every single day. Deal with him. I repeated, like he is a problem to be dealt with, like he is not a person, like he is not your son. He is my son, Dad said. That is why I am trying to teach him how to function in the real world. The real world does not accommodate people who throw tantrums when things get hard. He needs to learn to control himself. You are right about one thing, I said. I have no idea what it is like. I have no idea what it is like to be such a complete failure as a parent that I abuse my autistic son instead of trying to understand him. I have no idea what it is like to lock a 16-year-old child in a freezing garage for 7 hours and then go to sleep like I did nothing wrong. I have no idea what it is like to be that much of a monster. Dad's face went dark red. A vein was pulsing in his forehead. Get out of my house, right now, and leave him here. He lives here. He is my son. I am his legal guardian. Not for long, I said. I turned to Mateo. Can you walk? Can you make it to the car? He nodded, still wrapped in my arms, still shaking. Then let us go, I said. I helped him walk toward my car, one arm around his shoulders for support. He was unsteady on his feet, moving slowly. You cannot just take him, Dad called after us. His voice was rising, getting louder. I am his legal guardian. You are kidnapping him. I will call the police. I will have you arrested. I stopped, turned around to face him. Then call them, I said. My voice was quiet now. Dangerous. Go ahead. Call the cops. Tell them your 21-year-old son broke into your garage to rescue his 16-year-old autistic brother, who you locked in there for 7 hours in December with no jacket, no shoes, no heat. Tell them about how you went to bed and left him out here. Tell them about the hypothermia he was developing. Tell them about how his lips were blue and he could not stop shaking. I am sure they would be very interested in that story. I am sure CPS would be very interested too. Dad went pale. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not fear of me, fear of consequences. Fear of what might happen if people found out what he had done. You do not understand, he said, but his voice had lost its certainty. You do not understand how difficult he makes everything. How hard it is to live with him. How exhausting it is. No, I said. I do understand. I understand that you are an abuser. I understand that you have been abusing your autistic son for years and justifying it as discipline or tough love, or teaching him lessons. I understand that you are exactly the kind of parent that support groups warn autistic people about. And I understand that I am not letting Mateo spend one more night in this house with you. I got Mateo into my car. He was so cold he could barely move his fingers to buckle the seatbelt, so I did it for him. I cranked the heat up to maximum and aimed all the vents directly at him. I wrapped my jacket around his shoulders on top of the one he was already wearing "We are going to go now," I told him. "And you are never coming back here. I promise you that. You are never going to be locked in that garage again." "Okay," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. I drove away slowly. In my rearview mirror, I could see our father standing in the driveway, lit by the porch light. Our mother had appeared next to him in her bathrobe and slippers, her arms wrapped around herself. They both just stood there watching as I drove away with their son. Neither of them tried to stop me. Neither of them ran after the car. Neither of them did anything at all. And I realized in that moment that they were not going to fight for him. They were relieved that I was taking the problem away, taking the embarrassment away, taking the difficult autistic son who made their lives complicated. They were glad to see him go. That realization hurt more than anything else. Not for me, for Mateo, because he deserved parents who would fight for him, who would chase after him, who would do anything to keep him, and instead he got parents who were relieved to be rid of him. Mateo was silent the entire drive back to Tempe. He sat in the passenger seat, wrapped in both our jackets, the vents blasting hot air directly at him. Slowly warming up, I kept glancing over at him every few seconds, checking his color, watching his breathing, making sure he was okay. His lips were starting to return to a more normal color. The violent shivering was subsiding into smaller tremors, but his eyes were empty, staring straight ahead at nothing. "Talk to me," I said. "What are you thinking?" "That I am sorry," he said quietly. "Sorry," I repeated. "Mateo, why are you sorry?" "For ruining your Friday night," he said. "For making you drive all the way home. For being so much trouble. Dad is right. I ruin everything. I make everything about me. You should have been studying for your finals, but instead you had to come rescue me because I could not just act normal for one dinner. I had to physically restrain myself from pulling the car over and shaking him, not out of anger at him, out of rage at what our parents had done to him, at what their words had made him believe about himself. "Mateo, listen to me very carefully," I said. "You did not ruin my night. You did not make me do anything. You called your brother because you were in danger and you needed help, and that is exactly what you should have done. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. Dad locked you in the garage because he is an abusive parent who does not understand autism and does not want to understand it. That is on him, not on you." "But I did have a meltdown," Mateo said. "I did knock things over. I did make a mess. If I had just stayed calm." "You cannot just stay calm when you are having a sensory overload," I interrupted. "That is like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off. It does not work that way. Your brain was overwhelmed. That is not a choice. That is not bad behavior. That is neurology. Dad says I use my autism as an excuse," Mateo said quietly. "He says I could control it if I wanted to. He says other autistic people manage to act normal, so why cannot I?" "Dad is wrong," I said firmly. "Dad is wrong about everything. Autism is not something you can just turn off, and normal is overrated. I do not want you to be normal, Mateo. I want you to be you. I want you to be safe and happy and accepted for exactly who you are." Mateo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I do not want to go back there, Derek. Please do not make me go back. I will be good. I will try to be better. I will learn to control my meltdowns. Just please do not send me back." My heart broke. Actually broke. "You are not going back," I said. "Not while I am alive. You are staying with me. We will figure out the legal stuff later. But you are not going back to that house. Not ever. You understand me? Never. But where will I live?" Mateo asked. "Where will I go to school? What about all my stuff? What about everything?" "You will live with me," I said. "In my apartment. With me and Jake. We will figure it out. We will get you enrolled in a school near there. We will go get your stuff from the house when Dad is at work. We will figure out all of it, one step at a time. But first, you need to get warm and eat something and sleep somewhere safe. Everything else can wait until tomorrow. But you do not have room for me, Mateo said. You live in a small apartment. You have a roommate. You have school. You have work. You have your own life. I do not want to be a burden. You are not a burden, I said. You are my brother. And I love you. And that is all that matters. We will make it work. I promise you. We will figure it out together. What if I mess up? Mateo asked. His voice was so small, so scared. What if I have another meltdown? What if I ruin your life too? You are not going to ruin my life, I said. And if you have meltdowns, we will deal with them. That is what families do. Real families. Not the family we had, but the family we are going to build. You and me. Mateo started crying again. Quiet tears this time. I thought maybe you would not come, he admitted. I thought maybe you would think I was being dramatic. That is what Dad always says. That I am being dramatic. That I am making things bigger than they are. That I am exaggerating for attention. I will always believe you, I said. Always, Mateo. If you tell me something is wrong, I will believe you. If you tell me you are scared or hurt or in danger, I will come. Every single time. No questions asked. We got back to my apartment at 2:30 in the morning. We got back to my apartment at 2:30. Jake was home now, probably back from the party. I could hear his TV through the door. I let us in and Jake looked up from the couch, saw Mateo shivering and wrapped in towels and my jacket, and his eyes went wide. Dude, what happened? Jake asked. Long story, I said. This is my brother Mateo. He is going to be staying with us for a while. Can you help me find some warm clothes for him? He is freezing. Jake jumped into action immediately. Between the two of us, we got Mateo into sweats and a hoodie, got him into a hot shower, and then made him eat 3 pieces of leftover pizza, while the shower warmed him up from the inside out. By 3 in the morning, Mateo was in my bed, buried under every blanket I owned, finally warm and fed and safe. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at my little brother. He seemed so young, so vulnerable. His face was still red from crying, and his eyes were puffy, but at least he had stopped shivering. Derek, he said quietly, thank you for coming. Thank you for believing me. Of course I believed you, I said. I will always believe you, Mateo. Mom did not, he said. I told her I was cold. I told her I was scared. She came to the garage door and I could hear her talking to Dad, and I begged her to let me in, but she did not. She said I needed to learn to control myself. I felt rage building in my chest again, hot and sharp and dangerous. What Mom did was wrong, I said. What both of them did was wrong. That is not okay. That is not how you treat someone you love. But I did have a meltdown, Mateo said. I did knock things over. I did make a scene. Maybe Dad is right. Maybe I do need to try harder to be normal. No, I said firmly. Mateo, listen to me. You are not broken. You do not need to be fixed. You are autistic. That is just how your brain works. It is not bad or wrong. It is just different. And having meltdowns when you get overwhelmed is not a character flaw. It is a neurological response. You should not be punished for that. You should be helped. You should be understood. But I am weird, Mateo said. Dad is right. I am weird and embarrassing and too much. You are not weird, I said. You are you. And I love you exactly as you are. I do not want you to be normal. I want you to be happy. I want you to be safe. I want you to be accepted for who you are. Mateo started crying again. Quiet tears this time. I do not want to go back there, Derek. Please do not make me go back. You are not going back, I promised. Not while I have anything to say about it. You are staying here with me. We will figure out the legal stuff later. But you are not going back to that house. Not ever. What about school? Mateo asked. What about my stuff? What about everything? We will figure it out, I said. One step at a time. Right now, you need to sleep. You are exhausted, and you have been through something traumatic. Sleep, and we will start dealing with everything else tomorrow. Will you stay? Mateo asked. I do not want to be alone. So I stayed. I lay down on top of the covers next to my brother and let him hold my hand while he fell asleep. I stayed awake long after he started breathing deeply, his hand relaxing in mine, his face finally peaceful. I thought about what I had just done. I had taken my brother from our parents' house. Without permission, without any legal right to do so. I was 21 years old with no money, no plan, no idea what I was doing. I was a full-time college student, with 2 part-time jobs, living in a small apartment with a roommate. I had no business trying to take care of a 16-year-old, especially a 16-year-old who needed structure and routine, and understanding that I was not sure I could provide. But what choice did I have? I had seen what was happening to him. I had heard him crying in a freezing garage. I had watched our parents fail him over and over again. Someone had to protect him. Someone had to choose him. So it had to be me. It did not matter that I was young or unprepared or terrified. It did not matter that I had no idea what I was doing. All that mattered was that Mateo was safe, that he was warm and fed, and sleeping peacefully for the first time in who knows how long. I would figure out the rest. Somehow, I had to. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of Jake making breakfast. Mateo was still asleep next to me, curled up in a ball under the blankets. I carefully extracted my hand from his and went out to the living room. Jake was at the stove, making scrambled eggs. He looked up when I came in. "Coffee is ready," he said, nodding toward the pot. I figured we all needed it. "Thanks, man," I said, pouring myself a cup. "And thank you for being cool about last night. About Mateo staying here." "Of course," Jake said. He was quiet for a moment, focusing on stirring the eggs. Then he said, "Your parents locked him in the garage?" "Yeah," I said, "for 7 hours, because he had a meltdown at dinner." Jake shook his head. "That is messed up. Like, really messed up. Is he okay?" "Physically, yeah. He is okay now. Emotionally, I do not know. He has been through a lot." "So, what is the plan?" Jake asked. "Is he staying here permanently?" "Not that I mind," he added quickly. "I am just trying to understand the situation. Honestly, I have no idea," I admitted. "I just know he cannot go back there. I will not let him go back there. So I need to figure out how to make this work." "Do you have legal custody?" Jake asked. "No," I said. "Our parents are his legal guardians. Technically, what I did last night was probably kidnapping or custodial interference or something. But I do not care. Let them try to press charges. Let them explain to the police why their son was locked in an unheated garage." Jake nodded slowly. "You are probably going to need a lawyer." "Yeah," I said. "Probably, but I do not have money for a lawyer. I can barely afford rent." "Legal aid," Jake suggested. "My cousin used them when she was going through custody stuff with her ex. They help people who cannot afford lawyers." "That is a good idea," I said. "I will look into that today." Mateo emerged from the bedroom around 10, looking rumpled and sleepy. He was wearing my clothes, which were too big on him, and his hair was sticking up in every direction. He looked young and vulnerable, and nothing like the almost adult he was supposed to be. "Morning," I said. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," Mateo said, "and sore. My whole body hurts." "That is probably from shivering for 7 hours," I said. Jake made breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast. Mateo sat at our small kitchen table and ate slowly, methodically. He did not like eggs to touch toast on the plate, so I made sure they were separate. He did not like orange juice because the texture was wrong, so I gave him water. Small things that our parents had never bothered to remember or accommodate. While he ate, I made a list of things we needed to do. Contact his school to let them know he would not be there Monday. Get his medications and his medical records from our parents. Figure out what clothes and possessions he had and how to get them. Find a lawyer who could help us navigate the legal situation. Enroll him in a school near my apartment. Set up some kind of routine and structure so he would feel safe and stable. The list kept growing. Every time I thought I had covered everything, I thought of something else. Mateo needed a therapist who understood autism. He needed his IEP transferred to his new school. He needed routine doctor's appointments. He needed structure and predictability, and so many things I was not sure I could provide. But I would try. I would do whatever it took. My phone rang around noon. Dad. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again 5 minutes later. Then again. Then text started coming through. You need to bring Mateo home right now. You have no right to take him. I am calling the police if you do not bring him back by tonight. You are ruining this family. I blocked his number. Then I blocked Mom's number too, because I knew she would start calling soon. I did not want to hear their excuses, or their threats, or their attempts to manipulate me into returning Mateo to a situation where he was being abused. Instead, I called legal aid. After being on hold for 20 minutes, I got connected to a lawyer named Sarah who specialized in family law and custody cases. I explained the situation, the autism, the meltdown, the garage, the years of our parents failing to understand or accommodate Mateo's needs, the fact that I had taken him and did not intend to return him. What you are describing sounds like abuse and neglect, Sarah said when I finished. Locking a minor child with a disability in an unheated garage for extended periods is absolutely grounds for removal from the home. The question is whether you have legal standing to be his guardian. I am his brother, I said. I am 21. I have my own apartment. I am in college, and I work 2 jobs. I can provide for him. How old is Mateo? Sarah asked. 16. Okay, Sarah said. Here is the situation. Your parents have legal custody. You taking Mateo, without their permission, could technically be considered custodial interference. However, given the circumstances you described, particularly if Mateo was in immediate danger, you could argue that you were acting in his best interests. So what do I do? I asked. Do I just keep him here and wait for my parents to try to take him back? First, you need to file a report with CPS, Sarah said. Child Protective Services needs to investigate the abuse allegations. They will interview Mateo, interview your parents, assess the home situation. If they substantiate the abuse, they can remove him from your parents' custody. And then what? I asked. Does he just go into foster care? Not necessarily, Sarah said. If there is a capable family member who can care for him, CPS will usually place him with Family First. That would be you. You would become his kinship foster parent, and eventually you could petition for guardianship. How long does all of that take? I asked. Months, Sarah said. The CPS investigation alone could take weeks. Then there are court dates and evaluations and background checks. It is a long process. But in the meantime, if CPS determines that returning Mateo to your parents' home would be unsafe, they can grant you temporary custody while everything gets sorted out. Okay, I said. How do I file a CPS report? She gave me the number and walked me through what information I would need to provide. After we hung up, I sat for a long moment just staring at my phone. This was really happening. I was really doing this. I was taking on the responsibility of raising my 16-year-old brother because our parents had failed him so thoroughly. It was terrifying, but it was also the right thing to do. The only thing to do. I made the call to CPS, spent an hour on the phone describing what had happened, The caseworker, a woman named Linda, listened carefully and asked detailed questions. How long had this type of treatment been going on? Had there been other incidents? What was Mateo's mental and physical state? Was he safe where he was now? Based on what you are telling me, I am going to send someone out today to interview Mateo, Linda said. We take allegations of abuse against disabled children very seriously. Someone will be at your address within the next few hours. Okay, I said. Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez, Linda said. I want you to know that you did the right thing, getting him out of that situation. Not everyone would have the courage to do that. After I hung up, I went to tell Mateo that someone from CPS was coming. He was in the living room with Jake, watching TV, some anime show that he liked. He looked up when I came in. Mateo, I need to talk to you about something, I said. His face immediately went anxious. Am I going back? Are they making me go back? No, I said quickly. No, you are not going back. But someone from Child Protective Services is going to come talk to you today. They need to ask you questions about what happened, about how Dad and Mom treat you. It is so they can help make sure you are safe. What kind of questions? Mateo asked nervously. About last night, I said. About the garage. About other times when Dad or Mom did things that were hurtful or wrong. I know it is scary to talk about, but you need to tell them the truth. Okay? Everything. Even the hard stuff. Will you be there? Mateo asked. If you want me to be, I said. They might want to talk to you alone, but I can be in the other room. I will be right here. The CPS case worker arrived at 3 that afternoon. Her name was Jessica, and she had kind eyes and a gentle voice. She talked to Mateo for over an hour, just the two of them in my bedroom, while Jake and I waited in the living room. When they came out, Mateo looked exhausted. Jessica told me she would be in touch, that she needed to investigate further, but that based on her initial assessment, she agreed that Mateo should not return to our parents' home at this time. After she left, Mateo went straight to bed, even though it was only 4 in the afternoon. Talking about the abuse had drained him completely. Jake and I ordered pizza for dinner and sat on the couch eating in silence. Finally, Jake said, You know you are probably going to have to drop out of school, right? Or at least cut back to part-time. I know, I said. And you are going to need to find a bigger place, Jake continued. This apartment is fine for 2 college guys, but it is not really appropriate for raising a teenager. I know, I said again. And you are going to need more money, Jake said. A lot more money. Teenagers are expensive, especially teenagers with special needs. I know, I said for the 3rd time. I know all of that, Jake. But what else was I supposed to do? Leave him there? Let them keep treating him like that? No, Jake said. You did the right thing. I just want to make sure you understand what you are signing up for. This is not temporary. This is your life now. For the next 2 years, until he is 18 at minimum. Maybe longer if he needs support after that. I understand, I said. And I am scared. I am terrified. I have no idea if I can do this. But I am going to try. Because he is my brother and he needs me. Jake nodded. Okay, then let me help. What do you need? That question broke something in me. I had been holding it together all day, being strong for Mateo, making phone calls and plans, and trying to figure everything out. But Jake asking how he could help, offering to be part of this with me, it made me realize I was not alone. I need help figuring out how to take care of him. I admitted. I need help with money. I need help understanding autism better. I need help with everything, honestly. Then we will figure it out together, Jake said. You are not doing this alone, man. I am here. And I bet when your friends hear what is going on, they will want to help too. You do not have to carry this by yourself. Over the next few weeks, I learned just how true that was. My friends rallied around me in ways I never expected. One of my classmates had an autistic sibling, and sent me a list of resources and books. Another friend had a parent who was a social worker and connected me with support groups and services. Jake started working extra shifts and insisting on paying more than his share of rent, so I could afford things for Mateo. CPS moved quickly. Within 2 weeks, they had completed their investigation and substantiated the abuse allegations. They presented their findings to a judge who immediately removed Mateo from our parents' custody and placed him with me as a kinship foster parent. The court date was surreal. I sat in a courtroom in a suit I borrowed from Jake while a judge read through the CPS report. Our parents were there with their lawyer, looking angry and wronged and indignant. Our mother cried when the judge read out the findings. Our father sat stone-faced, his jaw clenched. The judge looked at me. "Mr. Rodriguez, you are very young to be taking on this level of responsibility. Do you understand what you are agreeing to?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said. "You will be responsible for Mateo's physical, emotional, educational, and medical care." The judge said, "You will need to provide him with stable housing, adequate supervision, and access to services he needs for his autism. This is not a temporary arrangement. If you accept this placement, you are committing to care for him until he turns 18 at a minimum. Do you understand?" "I understand, Your Honor," I said, "and I accept. Mateo is my brother. I will do whatever it takes to take care of him." The judge nodded. "Very well. I am granting temporary custody to Derek Rodriguez with the intent to petition for permanent guardianship once Mr. Rodriguez has completed the required training and home study. Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez, you are to have no contact with Mateo unless supervised and approved by CPS and this court. If you attempt to contact him without authorization, you will be held in contempt. Do you understand?" Our parents' lawyer responded yes, but I could see the fury on our father's face. He stared at me with such hatred that I actually felt afraid for a moment. But then I looked at Mateo sitting next to me, and I remembered why I was doing this. For him, to keep him safe. After court, I had to complete mandatory training to be a foster parent. 8 weeks of classes about childhood development, trauma, managing behaviors, understanding the foster care system. I learned about sensory processing disorder and how to help Mateo when he was overstimulated. I learned about emotional regulation strategies and how to prevent meltdowns before they started. I learned about IEPs and how to advocate for Mateo in the school system. It was overwhelming. There was so much I did not know, so much I had to learn, but I showed up to every class. I took notes. I asked questions. I read every handout and watched every video they assigned, because Mateo deserved someone who would put in the effort to understand him, who would meet his needs instead of expecting him to change who he was. We moved to a bigger apartment, a 2-bedroom place that cost $200 more a month, but gave Mateo his own space. I dropped from full-time to part-time at school, taking only 2 classes per semester so I could work more and have more time for Mateo. I picked up a 3rd part-time job on weekends. Between my 3 jobs and the small foster care stipend I received from the state, we made it work. Barely. Money was tight. Really tight. There were weeks when I had to choose between buying myself lunch or having gas money to drive Mateo to therapy. I always chose Mateo. I learned to live on ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. I learned to buy generic everything. I learned to budget down to the penny. But Mateo thrived. Away from our parents' constant criticism and punishment, he blossomed. He smiled more, laughed more, started opening up about his interests and his feelings. We established routines that worked for him. Dinner at 6 every night, bedtime at 10, visual schedules on the fridge so he always knew what to expect, noise-canceling headphones for when things got too loud, fidget toys for when he needed to stim, small accommodations that made his life so much easier. He started therapy with a psychologist who specialized in autism. Dr. Kim was patient and kind and helped Mateo process the trauma of how our parents had treated him. She taught him coping strategies and self-advocacy skills. She helped him understand that he was not broken or wrong, just different. He enrolled in a new high school closer to our apartment. The special education coordinator worked with me to make sure his IEP was properly implemented. He got extended time on tests, a quiet space to take breaks when he was overwhelmed, and a case manager who checked in with him daily. His grades improved. His confidence improved. He made a friend, another autistic kid named Omar, who was in his resource room. They bonded over anime and video games and started texting every day. I watched my little brother become himself, the person he was always meant to be but never got the chance to be because our parents were too busy trying to force him into a mold he could never fit. And I felt proud, exhausted and broke, and constantly stressed, but proud, because I had done this. I had saved him. I had given him a chance at a real life. It was not perfect. We fought sometimes. Mateo would get frustrated with rules I set or routines I insisted on. I would get overwhelmed by the constant responsibility. There were days when I wanted to just be 21 years old with no responsibilities, able to go out with my friends or sleep in or do whatever I wanted. But those moments passed, and at the end of every hard day, I would check on Mateo before I went to bed and see him sleeping peacefully in his own room, safe and warm and loved, and I would know it was worth it. Every sacrifice was worth it.